My name is Cheryl Deas, and I am the founder and executive director of DJ Deas Marvelous Light Foundation, where we focus on mental health awareness and suicide prevention. I am the mother of 6 children. DJ was my oldest. My wonderful husband who supports me in all things, Darnell, is here with us today as well. So what I'll do, I think, first is just let Angela roll the video that we partnered with Voices Institute, as well as the Partnership for Child Health in Jacksonville, Florida, to kind of do a PSA around mental health awareness and suicide prevention in some areas of the community where the word suicide is completely mute. And you might not know that much about it. And these individuals don't really understand what it is and how it is that their mental health affects them. So we did this as a PSA, and then I'll come back shortly and tell you just a little bit more about my DJ.
When you look at African Americans, if you say the word homicide, it doesn't trigger us that much. In the age of George Floyd's, in the name of, age of Trayvon Martin's, it's something that happens daily. We've almost become numb to it. But if you say the word suicide, it's like, ooh, like, what's wrong with that child? Or was something wrong with them? Like, what? And it's not something that we commonly hear. There's a conglomerate of things that could be going on in these children's minds, but they have to have a safe space to come and talk about it. And not just a mother or father who's like, there's nothing wrong with you mentally, you have nothing wrong, like what do you have to do besides go to school? You have no idea. It could be someone who was happy-go-lucky, just like DJ, who had a mental disorder that no one knew about. He was a perfectionist. He came out like a bouncing ball of light and just full of joy. And I would say, DJ, my angel baby, your mommy's special boy. He just always had a loving, helpful spirit. He was just like a kind, gentle soul.
I don't know if you ate Wheaties or what tonight. 27 carries, 217 yards, 2 touchdowns. What made you so effective out there tonight?
Honestly, I just give all my glory to God. It's not me, it's Him. He's blessed me with this talent, and I just want to use it to show my faith through Him.
DJ always wanted to go to the University of Alabama, and he was going into his junior year. So we did about 4 football camps. Just physical-wise, he might have needed a slight bit of a break, but he would not stop. He would continue going.
We got to go all in. We have to have great practices each week, no slacking. Just have to eat, sleep, breathe, football game.
Good job.
He was tired. I remember looking back in his eyes, I remember him looking like he was tired. And my husband said that he called and he spoke to him, and they had a normal conversation. And when they got ready to get off the phone, he was like, I love you. And usually DJ will say, I love you too, Pops. And he was like, I love you too, Dad. Like that. And we tried to call him later on, didn't get an answer. So I remember it took like 4 police and my 2 best friends like to restrain me from like getting to the door. I remember asking one of the officers, was he a Christian? He was like, yes. And I just asked him, like, I know my son is deceased, but please be careful with his body. Like, be gentle with his body. Pray over him. Literally everything after that was almost like a blur. The reality of going forward, it is enlightening, but painful at the same time. I immediately went to therapy. It completely changed our parenting style. Our normal routine would be, make sure you're doing this, make sure your grades look like this. We took a step back to say, are you okay? Are you whole? And if your child has those thoughts, it's okay. Let's get them the help. Let's get them coping mechanisms so that when they start having those thoughts, what do you do? How do we get you out of that space? It's okay to not be okay. Talk to someone, and once you get the help that you need, once you get the coping mechanism that you need, spread that love, spread that joy, spread that purpose, spread what you've learned. DJ had a purpose in his life, but our purpose was to continue to let his light shine. talk about it, speak about DJ, tell people about his light. One person would be saved, one person would be encouraged. It would always help at least one person in the room.
The world we live in today will tear you down. You are smart and intellectual, but your skin color is brown. When in doubt, don't let your emotions fade away. If you feel like you're not enough, here's what to say. I am a leader, I am powerful, I am somebody, I am enough, I am courageous, I am tough. You are strong, you are smart, you are beautiful, you are resilient. You are what so many wish they could be, and how can anyone miss it?
So as you can see, that was my precious DJ. We are a military family. We've lived all over the world. My husband served the world's greatest Navy for 22 years and afforded us many opportunities. DJ was a 4.0 student, showed no signs, no symptoms that he had any type of mental health disorder. During that time, he had quite a strict rigor on him. We were attending back-to-back football camps. But as parents, we all know that there is no rhyme, no reason, and no rule book. So you're just out here trying to do the best that you can. And if there's something that your child wants to be able to do, you want to make sure that you open those doors for those opportunities for them to do exactly what it is they have their mindset on. My son was the #1 freshman ranked running back in the state of California when he was just in the 10th grade. We had moved back to Florida where he wanted to be to pursue football. And tragically, on June 14, 2018, he took his life. My family experienced immense trauma. We did not know what to do. We had not even thought of the word suicide, didn't even know where to start, didn't know how to get counseling. We were stuck in what we call the black hole. It was a black hole for months and months. I couldn't even move literally out of my bed. I am a very religious person. I am a believer. And what I can tell you is this: I am here as nothing more than a testament of what the other side of grief looks like. Thank you. Day by day, I tell people all of us probably in this room experience grief. It's like a grain of sand in the hourglass that slowly but surely, bit by bit, grain by grain, it gets just a little bit lighter. I tell mothers all over, especially mothers who have lost their sons, we too are like earthly Marys, and our grief will never go away until we're back whole with our loved ones one day. But I can tell you this: everything does happen for a reason. On the opposite side of the grief, this is my testimony. This is what I know my son would want me to do. We go around, we tell DJ's story of trusting the process. The hardest thing was just not even 2 weeks after DJ passed, he received 30 football offers that summer, one coming from the University of Alabama, where he wanted to go. So I tell you this, we do this because we never want another family to suffer. We don't want another family to suffer in silence, and we want individuals to know it's okay to not be okay. So many people have a stigma on what they think mental health looks like, or they categorize it in a box, and they never think that it could be almost the perfect child, the one who never has any issues, the one who's always going around with a smile on their face, helping everyone else. Those could be the individuals who are stuck in a cycle of being a perfectionist and agonizing and tormented every day by anxiety, and you have absolutely no idea. So as we go throughout the day and throughout this morning, as myself and Muriel have said, we are completely open books. Any questions that you want to ask about our experience, we're more than happy to ask you. I do this, my family does this for one reason and one reason only, because as I prayed, as I wondered, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to keep DJ's legacy alive? How am I supposed to make sure that this does not happen to another child? How am I supposed to make sure that this does not happen to another family? I was promised in my spirit that every single time I got up and spoke about him, told people about our journey, told them about how we have to trust the process, at least one person would think about it and they would stop. It would not happen to them. So thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I want to give you a hug. Love you. I'm not going to stand here. I'm going to make sure I walk around. Okay? Can everyone hear me? Okay, awesome. Good morning, everyone. I'm Muriel Jones-Banks, and I am the parent of Michael Harris, Jr. I'm also the parent of Kimberly. Kimberly is my 41-year-old daughter who has anxiety. She suffers with depression. At this moment, she's not speaking to me, but that's okay. Michael is 34 years old, and I want to share a little bit about Michael. Some of you already know my story, my journey with Michael. It's the same book, but a different chapter. I really appreciate Linda giving Cheryl and I the opportunity to share about our griefs. And I applaud you. I applaud your husband as well for reaching out and sharing your story, because I'm hoping it resonated with someone here and we can pass it on and know that you do not have to live in the silos. And pay attention to your children or your loved ones, because the signs and the symptoms are there. I knew my son had something going on. And I remember at the age of 2.5, after receiving all those immunizations, he changed. He was different. But the pediatrician said to me, "You're just comparing him to his sister. He's fine. Boys are slow." But it was more than that. So what I would like to do right now, if you will allow me, to share this very short video and to give Linda an opportunity to question Cheryl and I. I have the assistance of Samantha Hunter, who is a dear friend and colleague, because I cannot read this poem that I am going to share with you and click at the same time. I can only see out one eye. So I let everyone know right off bat, I have a little challenge here, but Samantha is going to help me, so I thank you, Samantha. My title is A Mother's Love in Waiting. And this is a recount of, I would say, our, meaning my son and I, personal experience that I'm sharing with you. I remember that evening you arrived. In that moment, I felt so alive, so precious. I could not believe that you were mine. A promise of wonder, of life's grand design. Bright eyes, a spark so deep, dreams of laughter, hopes to keep. The world was soft, its edges kind, and love's sweet veil would wrap and bind. But then a word I will never forget came. Autism, they said. Muriel, you're not the one to blame. A path separated where dreams took flight in shades of gray, not black nor white. Years went on, and we found our way through silent storms and sunlit days. Then darker clouds came rushing in. Other names whispered within. Explosive disorder, schizophrenia, depersonalization disorder, names that fright. Michael, you were pacing in the night. You grew strong, and the voices were telling you to do harm and do wrong. I love you, yet I tremble too. For the son I love, I hardly knew. I could not even stay alone with you near. And sending you away was my greatest fear. Grieving a child who breathes and lives, who takes, he breaks, and he no longer gives. Hope within my heart still aches that one day, this storm will break. For even in pain, I see the light, the little boy who laughed in the night, his eyes ever so bright. I wait for him, and I hold on tight. However, I believe one day recovery will find my son within, both resilient and kind. I will continue to advocate, fight, and pray for peace to come, to light his way. Until that day, I will carry on a mother's love never gone. That was, thank you. The last photo, I requested Michael to send. I have not seen my son. I have not touched my son. I have not embraced my son. I can only see him on FaceTime when he feels like showing his face. The journey is real. The grief is real. And that's why, Linda, I appreciate your discernment, your insight when you said, you have to meet Cheryl. You two are traveling the same road of grief, but different lanes. I cannot see my son. I cannot be alone with him. So that really hurts, but I will continue, as I said, to fight for him and to advocate for him, even when he doesn't want me to. So I thank you, Linda. I am done. I'm ready for some questions. Thank you. Thanks, Samantha.
Okay. So now you have met two mothers, and you've heard a little bit about their stories, and we're going to simply sit here and talk for a few minutes, and then we are going to offer you the opportunity to ask questions that you might have. But before we do any of that, I'd like one more round of applause for these women.
Love you so much. Thank you, Linda.
All right. And we had all the tissues on the table. I brought us some, ladies. Because we are boy moms, first and foremost.
Yeah.
And while my son did not travel the path that these two wonderful young men did, we have so much in common, as do so many of you. This light is really bright, but we're going to make this work because that's what moms do.
That's right.
All righty, so I've got a few questions, and then we're going to turn it over to you. These are also big chairs for little people.
I know. Yeah, I sit back in my favorite day.
Okay. Now we're ready. All right, so I want us just to reflect a little bit. First of all, one of the things Cheryl did not mention was her littles.
Yes.
Could you talk just a little bit about your littles?
Absolutely. So in our family, we call them the bigs and the littles. DJ was the oldest before he passed away. And then I have a daughter that's 22, and then I have another daughter that will be 21 next month. So long story short, when DJ passed away, he was our only boy at that time. And then I have another 11-year-old daughter. And my husband looked at me. He had already had a previous vasectomy, and he goes, hey, do you think we should get it reversed and try again? So I said, okay, you get what you get, but you don't make a fit. Like, we can't really predict what it's gonna be. So we got it reversed. We were supposed to be on a waiting list, but miraculously, there was no waiting list after 3 days, and he was on it. Did the surgery, and 3 months later, I was pregnant. And I ended up being pregnant with another girl. So I was like, okay, Lord, like I know you hear my prayers and we discussed this, but this is not what we talked about. Like I kind of sort of wanted another son. So I like to tell the story and say on my 40th birthday, I had her December of 19, right before COVID hit. So everyone knows during COVID, you're just trying to stay alive, you know, be okay. 2 weeks after I had her, I ended up having congestive heart failure. So my ejection fraction was a 10. I like to say I was on the way to the upper room. So they said, no more babies, you have to be on these 4 heart medications and just try to survive. And I was like, okay, no problem. So on my 40th birthday, my husband had a huge party for me. Let's just say the party was so good, I don't really remember it, but the pictures show that I had an awesome time. So the very next day was my actual birthday, and my husband goes, hey, has your aunt came to visit you? And I said, no, but I think I'm okay. So I took a pregnancy test just as a fluke. And as my daughters like to say, I ran out of the house like an episode on Maury Povich, if anybody used to watch that, where they say you are not the father. Like I was just boohooing like, I am pregnant again, and what are we gonna do? We were not expecting this. So anyways, the doctors and everyone told me you cannot have this baby. Like you're on heart medications, your heart won't support it. Since you're over 40, they do the blood test. And immediately we found out it was a boy. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, what do we do? I went and got some second, some third, and some fourth opinions, and I said, no matter what, I'm having this baby. Like, I can be laying on the table, but I'm having this baby. So we have our littles. So Mackenzie is 11, Mia is 4, and Messiah is 2 years old.
Wow.
So yeah.
And because we are all about family, I hope it's okay. I'm going to ask the 2 amazing men who support these 2 amazing women to stand up for a minute. Johnny and Dalton, would you stand up? Thank you so much. They had no idea I was going to do that. But, you know, everybody needs to get props when they need to get props. All right. Ladies, let's think for a little bit. Now, Cheryl is someone I have been so lucky to get to know just recently. Yeah. And she's just now a part of my heart and my prayers. Muriel and I, oh my goodness.
Go way back.
We've known each other for a minute. I have had the amazing pleasure of knowing Michael, and he is just part of my heart also. So my questions might be a little different to each of them, given how well I know Muriel and how well I'm trying to get to know Cheryl. But I do want to start out by saying each of you have had profound grief. But it's very different, and that's why the title of our session today was about 2 mothers. I want to ask you, your journeys are different. So with your journeys, and Muriel, I'll start with you. What has supported you most? Where have you felt you got the most support? Was it particular people, whatever?
It's a combination of things. First of all, I would say my faith is very strong. If not, I would not be here. I would have given up a long time ago. I would also say, and I'm being honest, everyone who knows me know I keep it 100. My family was not very supportive. They made every excuse for my son's behaviors. There's no such thing as diagnosis like that. They're just labeling him because he's black, that whole thing, but I was living it. What really helped me as well, which I think by faith led me to it, his first admission to the hospital, a psychiatric hospital. It was around 11:30 at night. I didn't know what to expect. You know, I'm sitting there, and actually they were still, as I remember, they were evaluating him. And this was in New Jersey, because I'm from Jersey, and it was in Burlington County. And this young lady was a family partner with a family support organization there that night to support any families coming through. And she sat down and she talked to me. I was crying. She told me, she shared her story. She told me about the organization, that I was not alone. That helped a lot. I cannot say enough how critical family support organizations are in supporting each other and supporting families as we all travel down this road. So I would say it's my faith, and then also connecting with a family partner, someone who was just going through the same thing, but giving back. The other thing I would say that helped me through this, respite. And I'm a big advocate on respite. There needs to be more funding for respite programs, because at that age, Michael was young. I didn't know what was going on. And I think that's the population that has been missed, that early intervention, because parents are trying and caregivers are trying to figure out what to do. You're ready to throw up your hand. But that respite made a difference in helping me just to stay in there with the fight.
Absolutely. And just to follow up, Muriel, and you may not even know the number, but if you were going to approximate, how many times has Michael been hospitalized?
Oh my goodness. I think he's been in every hospital in New Jersey. They all know him. And it's, you know, at first it was embarrassing to me, but then I realized, this is it. This is what I have to deal with. He needs help. But he's been in so many hospitals, so many different residential cares. Even now, I have a meeting scheduled Tuesday. I'm going to be on Zoom. We have to move him again because of his violence.
I'm so sorry.
And you know it's a small percentage.
Right.
Of those with a mental health need. And you know I always say mental health need. I never say mental health challenge. Very small percentage that they're violent, especially, you know, someone diagnosed with schizophrenia. But I have to keep him safe, and I have to keep the community safe, to the point I've written to Governor Murphy, and he has been a great assistance in helping me navigate through the system and connecting me with the right people to get him back under the DDD services as an adult.
Right. Now, Cheryl, your story obviously is very different, where Muriel has been supporting a child long-term. In Michael's case, this is more like any other chronic illness, and so this has been going on. But for you, this was quite a shock.
Absolutely.
We have other families here who either have or unfortunately will experience that shock. What would you tell them in those moments when they're trying to grapple with the situation? What should they try to hold on to?
So for my family, there have been particularly 4 things that have helped us cope through our grieving process. The first thing is, like Muriel said, our faith. Our faith had to remain strong and intact, because sometimes it's not physically what you're not able to do, it is mentally. Like, mentally, you don't want to do certain things. Mentally, your mind will go off on a tangent, and you have to be steered back into what it is that you know to be true. We had a very supportive family, just our internal family. My girls, my daughter just graduated from college. She's a teacher, but literally she heard that the local fair is coming, and she's coming to take the littles to the fair this weekend. Like, we are a very close-knit and connected family. I cannot stress enough that you can have faith-based help. You can have wonderful resources like these. I continue therapy. Like, I have to have my therapy. When days are good, I go to therapy. When days are bad, I go to therapy. When I just want to unload and get some things off, I go to therapy. And then the last thing for us is doing what we're doing now. the prevention, the supporting of organizations. It wouldn't matter to me if the National Federation for Families said, hey, next year we're gonna have our conference in Madagascar. I'd be like, okay, sweetie, let's get online. Let's try to figure out how we're gonna get to Madagascar. Like supporting organizations like this and telling the story and getting the word out and helping others being able to bridge that gap. To me, there's nothing more special than having a tangible person that you can reach out and touch and feel and say, you're not the only one. You're not on an island by yourself. You don't have to feel like you're the only person in this particular situation. You don't have to feel like you're the only person who's been angry or upset or doesn't understand or mad or want to drop your faith or want to just exit your own self. Being able to have an actual person hand in hand to touch, to pick up the phone, to talk to say, I'm just having a moment. Like I'm just having a moment and I just want to sit in the moment and being able to have someone to say, it's okay to sit in the moment. I'll let you sit in it, I'll hold your hand with it, but what I won't let you do is stay in it. I won't let you stay. I'm here whenever you're ready. I will not let you stay. I will pick you up, I will lift you up, we'll get through this together.
Now, you mentioned when you were doing the video that when this first happened,
Yes.
you were in bed. That was.
Oh, yeah.
How did you get up?
So when it first happened, the actual day that it happened, my husband was in Rhode Island and I was at work. And when we could not get in contact with my son, we sent my nephew and my best friend. So they were the ones who were at the house and they saw his body. And they called me, I rushed home. I just remember being on the highway, like just driving. At one point, I think I was driving in the opposite direction because a road was closed and trying to get home. And as I said in the video, when I got there, of course, police and everyone are on the scene. Someone had called some ministers from our church. I burst out of the car to get into the house to my child. What I thought I was gonna be able to do, I have no idea, but I was not even cognitively thinking. Like, imagine an episode, it's almost like a television show, like when people are punching, kicking, screaming, like I'm fighting the police and my loved ones, trying to break down the door to get to my child. When I could not get to him, I collapsed in the front yard. Like I was literally rolling back and forth in the dirt on the front yard, not understanding why these people would not let me get to my child's body. And like the officers in the corners, finally when they were, like my minister was rolling on the dirt with me, like literally trying to get me to calm down. And when they finally got me to a place of like, just be still, it happened exactly like I explained in the video. Like I just asked the officer and asked the coroner, I was like, are you believers? Like, just please, whatever you do, I don't even know how this process works, but just be careful with my baby's body. This is my precious son. Like, this is my only son. This is someone that I carried for 9 months who was a model citizen, like I said, a 4.0 student. Like, what just happened? What just happened in my family? What just happened in my life? And then I had to go to the thought process of, how did it happen? What did he use? He was in my house. What were the scenario or the trickle of events that got him to this point? Like, what did I miss? It was like an out-of-body experience. I remember afterwards, they took me away from the house. My husband has told me he doesn't remember anything. There were 2 of his roommates in Rhode Island because he was at a military school. He doesn't even remember how he got to the airport. He said they packed him a bag, they purchased his flight, they took him to the airport and put him on the plane. And he ended up being in Jacksonville and someone, came and got him. But I remember specifically when we went to my friend's house and there were just of course there's always a group of people there, loved ones, to try to console you. And you aren't even in your right mind. And I remember thinking, I just want to get to my child. how can I get to my child? I wasn't even thinking about my other children. And I remember they were like, we just want you to bathe. Like, we went and bought you some clothes. Can you just bathe? And I was like, sure, I can go bathe. I went into my friend's bathroom. And literally in that click of a moment, I was thinking, where can I hang myself? What can I do? I just want to get to my son. Like, I didn't want to be there anymore. And I have a great friend, her name is Dr. Javetta Stanford. If it was literally not for her coming into the bathroom saying, no, I'm gonna sit, I will bathe you, I will do whatever, but I am not leaving your side, I cannot say what would have happened in those moments. Just wanted to exit. I just wanted to be with my child.
That makes
It's very raw.
total
That is
sense.
the honest truth.
But yes, I can certainly understand that. Now, Muriel, you know, I remember Michael as
He remembers you.
I know.
He asks about you all the time.
But at some point, you did realize that Michael wasn't safe and you weren't safe. I can't imagine a more difficult thing to realize as a mother. Can you talk a little bit about that? How did you come to that realization? And how were you able to make that monumental decision?
It wasn't easy. I was in denial. And the more I was in denial, the more I was putting myself and Kimberly at risk. It's so easy I was judged when I finally decided I have to have him removed from the house.
And can you talk about why you decided that?
Well, because number one, he was always attacking me in the middle of the night. I mean, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I wake up and he's standing over my bed, standing looking at me. He has auditory hallucinations. So those voices was telling him that he needed to kill me. But he would also verbalize it as well, what the voices were saying. So I always knew when he was going to do something. But the straw that broke the camel's back, I mean, I fought a lot at night to keep myself safe. I put key entry locks on my door and Kimberly's door so that he wouldn't come in. But when the voices told him, as he called the voices them or they, that's what he would say, they said it, or them said it, said, and he walked up to me and he said, when you go to sleep tonight, I'm going to cut your throat. I knew then, okay, love is not enough. I love him, but this is not enough. So when I eventually said, he needs to leave the home, he needs to be in a placement, we have to figure out what's gone, I got very depressed. I went into a deep, deep state of depression because I had, in my mind, had advocated effectively for him, even though I moved him from school to school to school because of the behaviors. But it was a small, still voice, and it wasn't a voice. It was something deep in my spirit that said, if I can give up my son, you can give up yours. And because of my faith, that's what I did. I released it. I released the fact that I can't take care of him. But I tried again, as you know. I brought him down here to Florida, and that didn't go so well. But I had to put it back into the Lord's hand. So it's a hard decision because that's my child. It's a very hard decision. But I was criticized, I was judged, to the point people made me feel that I was a bad parent, I was a bad mother. But finally I decided, no, I did all that I could humanly possibly do. So when individuals would say to me, I could never do that to my child, I kindly say, I don't recall you being in my bedroom at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning when he was standing over me. Where were you when he attacked me? So now, that's my attitude. You weren't there, keep your comments to yourself.
Yes. Now, Michael is not a small child.
Not anymore.
He's a big boy.
He's big.
And that within itself, I know we've talked about that within itself, some people find threatening. But Muriel, when she brought him to Florida, did something very courageous. And I want everyone to hear this, because Michael was a large black male. And we all know that that can be a very vulnerable position. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about what you did?
There's a lot of things I did. Which one was it?
The police.
Yes, I thought you was, that's where I thought you was going. Not only did I make sure here in Florida, but also in New Jersey. I always, wherever Michael was living, let law enforcement know who he was. I would introduce myself and him and say, this is my son, this is Michael. For Michael's diagnosis, you will be getting a call from me at some point, and this is how he should be handled. So I always ensured that I had some type of relationship, even in New Jersey now, and I'm here in Florida. Wherever he's living, I make sure law enforcement know who my son is. And trust me, some of the things he has done, really, the grace of God, that no one has shot him. He will tell you to your face what he's going to do. These terroristic threats are scary. Like I said, he's big and he's intimidating. But when he's my Michael, I call him Denzel. He's sweet, he's fine, he got his dimples. There's something angelic about him. But when he switches, and I always say to that other personality, which is really, really frightening, it's intimidating and it's scary. And you would believe that, no, he will hurt you. And that is like my biggest fear. That's why I advocate for him to be in a placement with a one-to-one. Because we tried, letting him get a little job at supermarkets and stuff, but within 3-4 months, he was threatening to kill his supervisor, he threatened to kill customers, just a lot. So it's difficult, but that was the one thing I would highly suggest. If you have a loved one that is aggressive, let law enforcement know. Everywhere Michael goes, like I said, any residence that I put him in, any group home he goes in, I said, okay, let's get in touch with law enforcement and make sure they know. And I had the last one, the one before the placement he's in now, they said, oh, we've never had any problem. I said, you will have a problem. So let's talk to the police. But yes, that is important.
I think it's an amazing way to protect our children.
Absolutely.
Just to have those folks know, and I mean, I'll just put a snippet in here. My son is doing wonderfully, but there are times when we have issues. Now here's what I do. Michelle, I know you're gonna laugh when I tell this story. My son and his friends were headed to Nashville for a bachelor party. My son has a way of getting to know law enforcement at those times. Michelle's husband happens to be a part of the FBI. I called her, my dear friend, and I said, can you please watch out for him while he's there? And they did. He had their number. He knew if anything happened that he was to call them. And it's us protecting our kids and planning ahead. So, and I've always loved the story about Michael.
Okay, I got a million of them.
Now, Cheryl, and I gave you some, if you want one, please.
Thank you.
I'm thinking about the littles now, about the other kids. How do you talk to them about losing such an amazing brother?
Yeah. So my 11-year-old, she was 5 at the time, and they were really close. She still has videos of them together. Like, she remembers everything about him. And the one thing that I did realize was that once DJ passed away, with the littles, we have a completely different parenting style. Like, I am the utmost gentle parent. I don't it's not rocket science. It's sometimes hard for me, but I try to practice gentle parenting. So Mackenzie is 11 now, and we have decided next year, in 2025, when she turns 12, we're actually going to sit her down and tell her the series of events and what happened, to her brother, because we just felt like at the time, through the years, it has not been right trying to explain it. We just explained to her that he had a disease mentally, and that's what took him. And we just told her he fell asleep, and he passed away in his sleep. So she understands. But the hardest thing, I think, for myself, and I think my husband will agree, is that now we have pictures of their brother all over. They know exactly who he is. Last night, literally, our 4-year-old was in the back seat as we were dropping her off. And she was like, so I have 3 brothers. I have Messiah, I have the puppy dog Rocky, and then I have DJ. Like, she was just going down the family tree. So they know who he is, but the hardest thing I think that I will ever have to do in life is have to explain over and over and again over what exactly happened, the series of events, so that they don't get it, from the internet or flying off, or have their own interpretation of what a mental illness is, or have their own interpretation of what suicide is and what happened to their brother. So that's very hard, but we talk about him all the time. They see pictures, and sometimes it's even scary because my 11-year-old is like his identical twin. She's a girl. It's like a girl version of DJ in her mannerisms. She's a softball pitcher. Like the way she plays sports. I think you saw in the video that DJ in his mind always knew that, like, I'm good at this sport, but it's totally not me. It's totally a gift from God. So when I'm using it, I want people to know it's him, not me. Like, it's all him. And he was just enjoyed doing it. Mackenzie, my 11-year-old, is the same way. An awesome softball pitcher, but she's like, I'm just out here to say hey with my friends, and if I strike somebody out, I'm so sorry. Like, can we have a play date afterwards? Or my dad's going to get ice cream. You want to come with us? And I'm like, girl, they are the opponent. Like, what are you talking about? So, just being able to guide them down that path. Like, we have been very nurturing, very covering, even with our decisions with their schools. Like, we live in a very small community in Green Cove Springs, Fleming Island, Florida. So we know the teachers, we know the principals, they know the story, they know what has, happened to our family. Just like you, advocate for your son, I advocate for my daughters and for Messiah too. We kept Mackenzie at a particular school because they knew what happened, they knew our family, and they know that, hey, if you have to do a family history or a family tree, or you're decorating things for the family, my child is probably going to want to decorate something for DJ because we have a Christmas, stocking still, there for him. So that is still her brother. She still has love in her heart. And for my 2 littles, it's the same way. It's their brother. He's gone. He's passed away and he's in heaven. But in their heart, he is still there.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yes, he is still very much your son.
Yes.
But when tragedy strikes families that way, it sometimes affects the dynamics.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm interested in, you are here today with your wonderful husband. How did the 2 of you as a couple cope with this?
So, at this point, we're all family, right? We're just divulging everything. As Muriel said, we're just going to keep it 100. I don't even know how we got through it. I can tell you this much. When it first happened, I'm very outgoing. Like, my husband's probably going to tell me when we get in the car, why did Miss Linda even make me stand up? Like, I'm just here to support. In the background, people didn't even have to know who I was. I personally went into intensive therapy because I needed it. I didn't know I needed it at the point, but once I started going just to get all of my emotions, my anger, my everything out, like, I had to go to someone. I don't think my husband would mind me saying he had limited therapy, but we had a pact between me and him that said, you don't have to go to therapy on a regular basis as long as you're expressing what it is that you need and how you feel to me. My older daughters at the time went through a series of therapists. My oldest daughter went through depression. She failed in college 4 times. 4 times she had to go to summer school, but we just had to walk her through it, be there for her, let her know that it's okay. We are here to hold your hand. My little Mackenzie, at the time we kept talking to her, but I have other best friends who are therapists. So they would do a course of like play therapy with her when they came. Like I didn't want to just force her into doing something if she didn't need it at the time. But when they would come and visit, they would play dolls with her and kind of see like what's going on to let me know and inform me like, hey, I think it might be time, or she might, need that edge or need that push for a little bit more. So literally just working together as a family, a lot of prayer, a lot of therapy, a lot of talking to, one another. And I will be honest, there were times that we did not get along. There were times that I didn't understand how gentle parenting was supposed to be, and because I'm going to my therapist and getting everything out, I am not understanding that why my child is over here drinking, sitting at home, not going to class. I'm paying for your college education and you're depressed. You are depressed about what? If anybody should be depressed, it should be me, because I'm still having to navigate being a mother, dealing with all of you. I'm paying for your education. Like I'm having to keep the train moving. But in therapy, like we had to stop and recognize everyone has their own path and journey. Let me just say this again, I'm going to be very real and very raw. This happened 6 years ago. I can do this like the back of my hand, because this is what I know I'm called and created and has been set on me for a purpose to do. My husband has his own journey. Every time I speak, he's like, okay, I got the littles, you good, we'll see you when you get home. In 6 years, this is his 3rd time. 3rd time listening. Not because he doesn't support, not because he doesn't understand, just because everyone has their own journey. I can listen to the story over and over 100 times. My daughters are like, Mom, we don't really want to listen to you speak, but if you're going to that walk, we will definitely hand out cards, we'll hand out bracelets, we'll cheer people. Everyone has their own journey that you have to be, you have to respect it. And you have to, again, just be there with them to hold their hand, to say, hey, whenever you're ready to take the next step, whatever that is, whatever that looks like, I'm here for you. I'll probably be telling, my daughters when they get married, telling their husbands like, look, this is the dynamic of our family. This is the trauma that we have experienced. This is what you're getting. Like, are you ready for this? Because this is what it is. So we just have to be, be one unit.
Absolutely. Now, Muriel, your journey, again, a little different. You were a single mom for quite a bit of Michael's life, I know. And yet now, you're married to an amazing man.
That's right, all those other husbands.
All those other husbands.
He's the right one. It took me a little while, but he's the right one.
But how did you introduce Johnny to Michael, and how have you blended that life?
I had to be very strategic in sharing with Michael that I remarried. Michael's father, my ex-husband, died tragically, really.
Right.
A car accident in North Carolina. A truck hit him as he was crossing the road. Michael, I don't think ever filtered that. He never processed it. When I told him about his father's death, he's like, yeah, okay, rest in peace, Dad. That's what he said. Mom, you're gonna help me get a job. I need a job. And so he never really processed it, even to this day. So I had to make sure the timing was right. So I called him and finally told him that, Mommy remarried, and my husband's name is Johnny. And actually, Johnny had a conversation with him on the phone, talked to him on the phone, because again, we really can't be around Michael because he's too unpredictable. And Johnny embraced it because, and I'm going to have to share, he took care of his mom. He took care of his mom, who had a mental health diagnosis when he was in his 20s. So he understood, he had compassion. he just said, you know, I wasn't there through those really hard times, but I'm here now. So when I get those threatening phone calls from Michael or those, and I wanted to share the video, but there was so much cursing in it that he did. I'm like, I'm not going to traumatize anyone here, okay? But so I decided not to show the video of what he sent. But that's how I introduced Johnny and Michael. Michael never mentioned Johnny anymore. He never said, how's your husband or anything like that, so I leave it alone. But Johnny is definitely there, and he supports me. He knows when I'm in a funk, and I get in a funk. I mean, I'm pretty strong, but that's still my son, where I become distant. And then also, even with Samantha, Samantha knows when something is going on. That's why I said she's a colleague, but she's a friend. And we're definitely both traveling the same road.
Yes.
You will have Samantha Hunter up here one day.
Yes.
Because her loved one is a little version of Michael. But Johnny has been a very strong support. And now that I'm retired, even though I haven't retired from my advocacy, he keeps me balanced. I'll put it to you that way. He keeps me balanced. Sometimes I don't like it, but he keeps me balanced. Yeah. Unconditional love, that's what it is.
All right. We could sit here all day and talk about this, but what I hope you are seeing is two unbelievable women who have walked through their grief, and they are now giving back to others. We're going to turn this over to the audience now and let you ask some questions, and I do believe you have realized that this is keeping it real. You can ask anything you want. We have folks with mics out here. If you will just raise your hand or stand up, we will get a mic to you and you can ask your questions. We have one up here, questions here, so I don't know. I see Angelo. Who else has mics? Over there, Lachelle's got a mic over there.
So you both mentioned your faith, and as also somebody with faith,
Can you speak up so everybody
can I stand up? Oh, okay. So you both mentioned faith, and as somebody also with faith, also realizing that sometimes faith communities can also bring their own set of trauma in this world. As somebody who, not only as a person of faith, I'm a PK, I feel called to be a bridge between mental health and faith communities, and yet I know that my trauma has come from the faith communities telling me, sit down, shut up, stop talking about your kid. Stop asking for prayers, stop, you're depressing the rest of us. We don't want to talk about suicide. We don't want to talk about mental health. We're tired of you saying, can somebody love on my kid wants to die. And I've often said, where people of God aren't, people of Satan will be. And that's been my experience. The people who have surrounded him when people of faith deserted him have been of the enemy, in my opinion, and have led him down very dark roads. What do you do when that community of faith is some of the biggest deniers of mental health and some of the biggest causes of trauma for people with mental health?
So I will tell you this, when it first happened to my son, people wrap their arms around you in the faith-based community and they will say, here, we're here for you, we'll do this, we'll do that. Sometimes it's never done. I specifically remember one incident. After my son passed away, there was another child. Similar thing happened. We know what happened, but it was kind of brushed under the rug. They had a scholarship awards presentation dedicated to this child. And I was sitting in my church saying to myself, the same thing happened to my child. I was open and honest about it and wanted to talk. There's no scholarships being dedicated. There's nothing. In the core of my spirit, in that exact moment, the best thing that I can tell you to do is you have to hold truth to your own faith in your own God and what you know
That's
him
right.
to be able to do. Because all of these people are just people. You are a PK. So you had an intimate experience with your own family members. So you know what goes on outside of the church. So what I will tell you is this. In that exact moment, God spoke to me specifically. Speaks to everybody differently, but he knows he has to catch me before I go off on a tangent. I remember I told you it's the mind for me. In that moment, I'm in church and he specifically told me, he said, don't worry about it. Because those scholarships and what they're doing for that particular individual and his parents are what they need as coping mechanisms for this season. What I have for you goes beyond the four walls of this building. You have to hold tight to your faith and to your advocacy, because this is what I will tell you. Again, Muriel and I are not just up here to be up here. I am here because he made me a promise. I tug a war with God. I did everything except for create blasphemy and say it was not one. Like, we fought, I cursed him out. I told him, what in the world are you doing? Why did you take my precious baby? All these other people, you took my son? Why? Oh, look, take somebody else. Why would you do this to me? He specifically sat me down in a dream and told me, get what you asked for. Again, he has to hit me instantly, right? Specifically told me, he said, consider it just like me sitting down with the enemy like Job. And he said, look at this family. I can't touch this family because you have a hedge of protection around them. What would happen if you remove the hedge from around them and let some things happen? And he told me specifically, nothing happens unless I allow it. So I allowed this to happen. I took the hedge off and I took him because it was his time. And because it was his time, I knew that in the end, I would still be able to get the glory. I used to read these devotionals called Jesus Calling. When DJ passed, I stopped reading them on that particular day. When I started back a month later, I said, I wonder what was in the devotional when he passed. On June 14th of the Jesus Calling, it goes, not verbatim, but something like this. I'm about to take you on a rough and rugged road. But if you stick by me, I will be with you. I could easily make this road easy and simple for you, but that is not what I have chosen for you. But what I want you to do is walk hand in hand with me. Join me as we go up the rough and rugged mountain and bring others out of the darkness into the marvelous light. The name of our foundation is the DJ Deas Marvelous Light Foundation. I didn't know anything about suicide prevention. When I got up and I finally was able to look up the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, I was like, they have Out of the Darkness walks. Like, didn't I just hear something about Out of the Darkness? Oh, that was in the devotional. Well, what am I supposed to do, God? You're supposed to start this. Well, how am I supposed to start this? Oh, my therapist helps people start nonprofits, and she helped me all within 3 hours. Like, everything connects. You have to grab hold to your deep inner faith in what you know. Don't look at the people. Continue to advocate. If they don't want to advocate in the church, you advocate throughout. What you are called to do is not just for ministry there, it's for ministry in the world. That's the best advice I can give.
I think, and you're absolutely right. Just remember this. People are imperfect, but you serve a perfect God. That's it. Don't expect people to support you. I have had the same experience in a prior church when I was trying to get my son into a summer camp. They had summer camp for the little ones, and I was disclosing that he was on the spectrum. What they said, oh, we can't help you. This is a church that I was tithing, I was giving. And they told me, we cannot accept your son. And that was when I realized, you know what? And you're right. Those four walls, this is outside the four walls. People are imperfect. People in church are imperfect. And just always remember that. Don't expect anything special from anyone because of what you may be experiencing with your family. Bottom line is people are going to judge anyway. But I moved on, and I moved in. And now I'm affiliated with another church that is so about mental health acceptance. They have mental health counselors. They talk about suicide. They talk to the youth, and they educate. So just finding the right place of worship or a faith-based organization, but always remember, people aren't perfect. But you said it best, and I love it. Thank you, dear.
So, Cheryl, I just want to say thank you for sharing that your son.
Who's that? I can't hear you.
Okay, there we go.
There you go.
Cheryl, I just want to say thank you for sharing that, your son didn't have the signs. I think that's so important because we put a box and a check box for so many people that are experiencing this. As a mother of 4 sons, my focus was not on my youngest because he was very happy. He was very outgoing. He was a star soccer player. My focus was on his brothers and their issues. And when he had his first attempt, I had no idea. I had no idea what to do, no idea that he was having these thoughts and that he was spiraling, and it happened literally overnight. And now we live with, his intrusive thoughts. It changed our entire family. My question to you is, do you, or how do you deal with the paranoia of your other children, of this could happen to them and I wouldn't know? Because as a mother, you want to protect them. Yes. And you want to know all the signs, but if there aren't signs, do you live with that as always constantly? Because I know my perspective on my children is I'm always asking questions now, and I get on their nerves constantly. And they're like, well, we're not like our brother. And I was like, well, I didn't think your brother was living with those thoughts either. So what do you do to cope with that?
So I would say absolutely we do live with it. Like I told you, when my older daughter was in college, flunking out and drinking and just depressed, and even though it had happened to DJ, in my mind, I did not want it to happen to her, but I just was not connecting the dots of the depression of, they were only, they were basically almost the same age. They were we call them Mutt and Jeff. Amaya was not very outgoing, so all of her friends were DJ's friends, but now DJ is gone and she has to live a life of her own. I think in the present time, my husband and I always worry about my 11-year-old Mackenzie. It's almost like she doesn't know. She's on social media, she sees certain things, we're monitoring, but we're not leaving her at home just yet by herself. Make sure we're connecting the dots. I think the only thing that you can do in those instances is, the worry is always going to be there, but each individual child is separate and different. So when I say we changed our parenting style, we really changed our parenting style. My husband is no longer hardcore. He is whatever you want to do. Last night I was trying to get my 2 littles together. He was giving them chocolate yahoos and candy at 10 o'clock at night. And I'm trying to figure out why do we not have any, my older girls come home now and they were like, where is the structure and the discipline? You're cooking 3 different meals. You went to Taco Bell, McDonald's, and now you're making spaghetti. What is going on? So when I say changing your parenting style, it looks, for our family, this is what it looks like. My husband is a complete softie. I still have to have a level of discipline, but my discipline is different. My discipline looks like, if you didn't do the dishes for 3 days in a row, and that's the only thing I'm asking you to do, yes, I might get up on the 4th morning screaming, yelling, fussing, and my husband is looking at me like, why are you yelling at her? It's just dishes. I'm yelling because they've been in there for 3 days. But my parenting style is now I have to take a step back to say, I just screwed up her freaking morning. She's got to go to school. So when I pick her up, we're going to go get sushi and Starbucks, which are her favorite, but not just doing that, but telling her, hey, mama is sorry. I was just having a bad morning. I saw those dishes in there for 3 days. That's the only thing mommy asked you to do. Could you just make sure that you load the dishwasher? I'm not a perfect mommy. I make mistakes. If I get up and I yell, just pull me to the side and be like, Mom, I'm going to do it. It's okay. My 4-year-old pulls me to the side now. I was saying something to the 2-year-old, and she goes, stop yelling at him. He's just 2 years old. He's just my little brother. Just talk to us. And I'm thinking to myself, a 4-year-old just talk to us? And I'm like, okay, I can do that. Mommy needs you to do this. this is my quiet inside voice. If it hasn't been done by 3 times, then mommy's voice is gonna escalate. And that's not what you like, right? And she's like, exactly. So I think what you're doing is great. It's the constant communication. You're always gonna have that little thing in the back of your head, but really what you have to go back to is, there were no signs, there was no symptoms, but for my child, he had a lot of anxiety. I'm pretty sure I put a lot of that anxiety on him because I didn't even think I had it myself. I thought I was just worried. He was trying to do all the things that he wanted to do and the things that we wanted him to do and live like this perfect life. Now we are like, screw it, girl, C's get degrees. We will get you in somewhere. It is fine. You don't want to go to school today. You need a mental health day. Stay at home. Do you want a DoorDash? What would you like for me to do? It's okay. So just recognizing some of those little things and pressures he might have had, on him. Most of the time when we give these talks, I'm talking to people who are children in particular, who are in the top 10% of their class.
Linda, we're going to try to squeeze in one more question because we are really bumping up against time.
We are.
So, y'all notice that was my gentle warning to Linda that we're bumping up against time. Hold on.
Thank you both so much for sharing your stories. I see a bit of my story in both of them. My dad committed suicide. I ended up having mental health issues that led me into the foster care system. So my mom was a wife that was grieving, but also a mother that's trying to regulate children who had to deal with their dad passing by suicide and finding him. My question is, what advice would you give to a mother who's in both situations? Because my mom gave me up to the system because she's like, I can't. But then on the other side, she was grieving and lost her husband. And at that time, in 2005, they weren't talking about suicide, anything. And he was a black man. So what advice would you give?
She can go. You want to go first?
Grace. Give her grace. Because there's no manual. There's no manual on how you're supposed to approach it. There's no manual on what you're supposed to do. Give her grace because at that particular time, she did not know. She didn't know if she should keep you, give you away, put you over here, let you go with an aunt, because there was no path for her to be able to navigate. She might have not had a tangible person to look and to see, oh, this is what you're supposed to do. I tell people all the time, there's no manual. I am doing the best I can with what I have. Either you're emulating what your parents did or you found a mentor or somebody to say, I'm going to be like that person. And even that might not work. So give her grace and space and still be there and understand that there's no manual for it. She was doing the best that she could at that time, without any direction or path to know how to navigate it.
I just have a quick question for you, young lady. Are you also asking if someone's in this situation now, what they would do, or what they should do, or we're good? Gotcha. We're good.
All right. We are at the end of our time for this particular session. I do thank all of you for your attention. Cheryl and Muriel, I can never thank you enough. I will always be in your debt for sharing with us today. You are just two amazing women. Can we please have a huge round of applause for these two women?
You are amazing. Thank you, Linda, so much. You brought us together for a reason.
Yes. Now, we're going to dismiss you. These ladies are both here. If you have a personal question that you want to ask or something you want to say to them, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, we will see you a little later. And once again, thank you so much, Cheryl and Muriel.
Thank you.